Hey everyone, Reviews with Ryan. So it is the end of 2022 and we're here to talk about the top 20 worst films of 2022. So I said this in my best of the top 20 films that I saw this year, that I saw a total of 165 films. 70 were really good, 50 were really bad, and 45 were on the meh okay list. So out of the 50 that were really bad, I really had to decide which 20 tortured me the most. But before I get into that top 20, let's list the dishonorable mentions: The Reef Stalked, Where the Crawdads Sing, The King's Daughter, 3,000 Years of Longing, Medieval, Dog, Bring It On, Cheer or Die, Father Stew, Hocus Pocus 2, The 355, and Easter Sunday. Starting with number 20 comes a film that has been talked a lot about on my streams and kind of joked about, but that is Family Camp. Now, I went into this film, I watched the trailer, and I was thinking to myself, this looks pretty bad, but I'm going to go ahead and check it out because nothing was really playing that week. So I was like, I'll go ahead and check it out. I have nothing better to do. There's only a couple people in my screening. And man, I wish I wouldn't have checked out this film. So I didn't know that this was made by a couple Christians, which is fine. I don't mind that people have faith. The way that these kind of films usually are, though, they're usually really cheesy. And this film is no exception. It's just one of those films that it has really lame jokes. The whole joke where they talk about Chick-fil-A, it's just not funny. And this film, it wasn't really funny at all. I found that this film, it was really scattered. It didn't really have a really cohesive plot. Lots of different things going on. And I didn't really think it really had the best message and not the best characters. At number 19, we have Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Man, was this a big mistake watching this film. It went on Netflix, and honestly, a lot of times when this stuff goes on Netflix, it usually isn't that good. Most of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films, they're really not that good, and this one takes no exception of being really bad. So this film, it has a lot of different political kind of quotes. There's one part in this film, even though there's some really good gore in this film, and Leatherface, he looks good and everything. He's got the chainsaw and everything. They have a lot of stupid lines in here, like, "You're canceled, bro," and just stupid stuff like that. The characters, they're really unlikable. It's a torturous film to actually watch, and I absolutely hated it. At number 18, we have Bones and All. Now, this film, man, this film was a lot worse than I initially kind of reacted to this film. Now, Mark Rylance is the best part about this film. Timothy Chalamet and Taylor Russell, I never bought their romance at all. The film, it's really artsy, and it just doesn't do a really good job of actually portraying any kind of story. I honestly wanted to fall asleep in the theater, and it's funny because someone actually made a comment on the video that I made for this, and they said that the book is actually worse than the film, so I cannot imagine reading this book and, trying to experience the book and then watching this film, and the book is worse than the film. That's a really bad sign. At number 17, we have a film that I just recently watched. A lot of people said that they really did not like this film, and I'm definitely on that bandwagon as well. That is Blonde. This film, holy crap, what is the point of this film? Ana de Armas, she's naked majority of this film. This is not a true adaptation to Marilyn Monroe's life. It's like a horror movie filled with a political agenda in certain points. The black and white to the color and the changing of the ratios makes no sense. It's a really depressing movie, and it honestly did not do justice on Marilyn Monroe's life. And the person that actually wrote this book just went ahead and just made up a bunch of fairy tales, in my opinion. And this was a horrible movie, and Netflix should be ashamed of themselves for having this. At number 16, we have a film that's been joked a lot about this year, but that is Thor: Love and Thunder. This film was absolutely agonizing to watch in theaters. The screaming goats, the terrible dialogue with Russell Crowe. Oh my gosh, is that embarrassing for his career. And in this film, it's just not a really good cohesive film. Now the villain, they don't do him justice at all. Christian Bale, he's really left out in the cold. They don't build his character very well. It's a very boring movie. And honestly, it's the worst movie that I've seen probably with Marvel this year. I really could not stand this film. And I honestly, every time I see the Steelbook in stores, I just hope that it collects dust, to be honest with you. At number 15, another film that has been really divisive. It just recently came out in physical media. I watched it once on Peacock. I'm glad I didn't spend a dime on this film, but Halloween Ends. This film was a complete waste of time. I watched this film at home because I really wasn't feeling the greatest to go to an actual theater, and I'm glad that I made that decision because about an hour into this film, I turned to my wife and I said, this movie is really boring. Honestly, it really wasn't captivating me, and they promised this big old fight with Laurie Strode and Michael Myers, and we get like a 10-minute kind of scene, and it was just really awful. A film that I'll never revisit. I hated this film. Avoid it. Up at number 14, we have a film with Liam Neeson, Blacklight. This film, oh my gosh, this film, it bombed at the box office. All the reviews are really bad. I think I saw like 1 or 2 reviews where people actually enjoyed this film. And I have to say, what's really funny about this film is the acting isn't really good. Liam Neeson in this, he's going through the same role that he's gone through probably 10, 15 times other than Taken, and that's why everybody refers to every movie that he makes as like Taken 10 half the time. And it's funny because I was discussing this movie with my best friend, and he said, I didn't know any of those actors in there. It's almost like they all caught COVID and they got a bunch of backup actors to actually be in this film because there is no life to any of the actors in this film. There's no character to latch onto. It's an absolutely bore fest to watch this film and get through. And Liam Neeson, he looks really slow in this film. The way the choreography in this film goes, it was awful. It was really hard to watch Liam Neeson in this film. 13, we have Deep Water. Ana de Armas, poor Ana de Armas. She's on this list again. This film, it really bugged the hell out of me. It really made no sense. There really isn't any resolution. It's really just about this woman married to Ben Affleck, and he is killing a bunch of guys that she is sleeping with, and there really is no point to this movie. This movie absolutely irritated me, and I absolutely hated it, and I don't recommend you watch it. Number 12, we have Firestarter. Now, this is another movie that I could have went to the theater or watched at home, and I chose to watch it at home, and again, another good choice, because this film was absolutely horrible. The CGI in this film was really bad. The story was really boring. I didn't enjoy the film at all, and there wasn't really much to talk about with this film other than it was just a complete disaster, and it seemed like nobody really enjoyed this film, and I don't have any desire to watch the original, to be honest with you. Up at number 11, now this film was up at the top of my list for the longest time as being one of the worst films of the year. And honestly, I thought this was going to be my number 1 for the longest time. But as I've watched other movies this year, this movie, it isn't quite as bad as those other ones that are above it. And that is Redeeming Love. This film, I don't know what the hell they were thinking with this film. You have a woman that is a prostitute, this other guy that he is a Christian Jesus lover, and it just doesn't work. The whole love connection, I never bought. There's so many points in this film where she kept running away, and I was thinking to myself, just let her go. She doesn't want to be with you. There's no love connection between these two. And now we're at number 10. Now, this is a film that I've mentioned many times. I cannot stand this film. It's always kind of a running joke on streams lately of mine, but that is Amsterdam. This film, oh my gosh, I really wanted to fall asleep on this film. It's just 2 hours of absolutely nothing. It's extremely boring. There's a lot of cast that really makes it seem like it's going to be a really good movie, but there's nothing memorable about this film. I remember a few people kind of gasping throughout this movie and really awing at the fact that this film is really long and there really isn't much of a purpose for this film. It was so boring. Honestly, if you guys can skip it, just skip it. If anybody, like I said in my review, if anybody actually ever buys me this film, it's going to be a coaster or it's going to be a Frisbee to use on the beach because this movie is terrible. Up at number 9 was a Shudder screening that I got, and a lot of my fellow YouTubers did not like this film, and I watched it twice. Unfortunately, I suffered through this film twice because I really just thought maybe I was in a mood when I watched it the first time, but I watched it a second time, and it was just as bad as the first time, and I watched it on separate days to really get a different kind of mood to make sure I wasn't in one. But that film is What Josiah Saw. This film, it didn't seem like it really had much of a purpose. It had a kind of nice kind of little build up at first. It looked like it was going to be a pretty decent horror movie at first, but then it just goes into this family kind of drama. It goes into different kind of stories, and it goes into incest and stuff, and it just never comes together for me. Complete bore fest. Up at number 8, we have another Shudder screening that I got. Now, this film, I didn't see as many people review this film, but it was so boring. But the film is called Flux Gourmet. This film, it tries to be really artsy. It has all these different moving pieces of these people that are in this food collective kind of group that are playing with foods and sound, and it's just a lot of different movements. There's a bunch of naked people dancing around with food and stuff. I never got into this film. This film had no purpose. Number 7, we have a film that honestly, it kind of is a little scratchy in my memory because it was a film that I really hated, but it was a film that I can't really remember too much of the plot because it wasn't that memorable, to be honest. But that film is called Big Gold Brick. Megan Fox starred in this and a couple other big stars, Oscar Isaac. The film is just really unmemorable, and honestly, I don't have much to say. It's bad. Next film. At number 6, we have a film that I also recently just watched, and I didn't do a review on the channel, but that film is Spirited. Now, Ryan Reynolds in this film and Will Ferrell. Now, granted, I like both of them as actors, but I felt that they were a waste in this film. I didn't think they could sing at all. A lot of the parts in this was just kind of random singing. I didn't care for the story at all. They tried to put a twist on it, and it just didn't work for me. And now we're into the top 5. Now, before I go into the top 5 here, all these films I rated a half star. So number 5 is Christmas, Bloody Christmas. This film, oh my gosh, so the first 30 to 40 minutes of this film is a bunch of characters just kind of messing around. They're talking about sex, they're cussing a lot. They add nothing to the film as far as dialogue. And then you have a robotic Santa going around and killing people. Thought it was just a stupid movie. I don't know why it has any hype. It was terrible. At number 4, now this is a film that I was actually warned about. A few other people reviewed it and said it was awful. I wanted to see it for myself, but that is Cuddy that is on Hulu. Now this film, it's kind of like started as a meme apparently, and the monster is just really awful. The way that they designed this monster is really terrible. The characters, they're really kind of in this film, and I didn't enjoy watching this film at all. It's just one of those films that it's really forgettable, and you can kind of laugh at it a little bit, but the whole premise and the whole story of how Cuddy comes to be Cuddy is just really dumb. At number 3, we have a shark movie, The Requin. Now, I watched this movie mainly because, I wanted to check out a shark movie. I haven't watched a shark movie in a long while. It was on Hulu. I've heard a few people saying that it wasn't that good, and I was thinking, maybe they're overreacting. Well, they weren't overreacting. This movie was really bad. Some of the acting is really bad in this film. The way that it's shot isn't very good, and it doesn't have too much of actual shark in it, so why would you advertise a film of a shark and there really is not really any shark in it? At number 2, now this is a film that I have talked about on streams before, but Dashcam. This film absolutely annoyed the hell out of me. This film, the main character, she is a complete ass. They kind of make fun of the whole COVID situation with the mask and stuff, which I didn't really appreciate because I don't think it's a situation you should really be making fun of. And I understand that people have different opinions about it, but come on. Do we really need to include that in this film? Didn't add anything to the story. The character, she's annoying the whole time. I just wanted her to die throughout the film. The camera work is some of the worst camera work that I've seen all year, and it's just a really big waste of your time. There's some better found footage films out there. And now we are at number 1. What is the number 1 worst film of the year? Now, I went on a rant on the channel about this film, but that is All Jacked Up and Full of Worms. This film is completely pointless, basically about a bunch of people that are getting high off of eating worms. The whole story in this film and the characters in this film, wow, they're all unlikable. This one guy, he's eating worms and he's basically trying to have sex with this prostitute and get her pregnant because he wants a baby. And the ending of the film is so bizarre. It's so crazy. It doesn't have any kind of story to it. It's just a complete mess. It's gross. I didn't enjoy it. A complete waste of your time. Those are my 20 films that I really hated this year. Now, let me know in the comments, what did I miss? What are you angry that is not on this list? And let me know down in the comments. What are some of your worst films of the year? Let me know down in the comments as well. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys on my next video, and Happy New Year.